So, unless you've been living under a rock, you might have heard about the whole Raise Your Colours protest thing that's happening in the UK at the moment. It's where people are raising the England flag and the United Kingdom flag, and they're putting it all over the streets. And I was going down the M1, and I could see like people have put like the flags on the bridges, but then you've also got like people painting roundabouts. So the other day I was in the next village over, and I saw like the roundabout was basically painted in the St. George's flag, and I thought it was quite interesting. And I did look at it, and I thought, you know, that's interesting. I didn't know that this village was doing any type of protests. I mean, now you might be thinking, why is this relevant? What's actually happening? So of course, at the moment there is this huge kind of debate going on. With the UK, there seems to be air quotes a migrant crisis. With loads of people coming over on boats and things like that. And then it started off with the whole Epping hotel, where it was said that a migrant sexually assaulted a young girl, and then from there was like mass protests, and then I believe it went out further and it went into the Midlands, and the whole kind of Raise Your Colours protest started in Birmingham, where people put up the flags, and then the council took it down, and the council was like, no, we did it for safety reasons. And then people were like, no, you're taking them down because you're saying that they're racist, etc., etc. It's everyone has like something to say on this. So I thought, what, it is quite interesting, because I feel, from what I'm seeing, some of the YouTube videos I've seen and some of the news that I've seen, a lot of people, I keep saying this, seeing the same comment, which is, if you have an issue with, the flag being up in its host country, then leave, and all this kind of stuff, right? And it got me thinking about how I don't really think a lot of people understand why ethnic minorities kind of fear the flag, or not necessarily fear even, or but they get a bit afraid, or they might get intimidated, because I don't think it's something that is spoken about. So I kind of wanted to give like the brown perspective, because that's the only perspective I can give, and I hope it might relate to my other fellow ethnic minorities as well. So let me take you down memory lane. So my mate, he used to live in a specific area of town, and we used to hang out all the time. But generally, if I ever went to his area, we'd always kind of just chill in his house or stay on the street. We wouldn't really venture out too far. But then I remember one summer he was like, let's take a walk around the area. We haven't really done that, and I'll show you around. And I was like, yeah, it's cool. I was always quite apprehensive about his neighborhood, because there was just some very dodgy characters that used to live there. But he kind of knew everyone, so I felt a little bit more safe. But anyways, so we were walking around, and I remember looking up, and I just saw like a ton of kind of England flags everywhere. But it was sort of in the corner of the neighborhood, and I said to him, "Oh, that's interesting. Like, why is there so many England flags there? Like, what's happening?" Never did I ever think, oh, this is England, they can have the flag or anything like that. I just generally was like, oh, how comes? Because the rest of the neighborhood, there wasn't a single flag, and even in the town I grew up in, it was very rare to kind of see those flags, apart from when it was like the World Cup, or if we had like a jubilee or like a royal celebration or something, or we were doing something in school, you'd very rarely see the England flag. So for me, it was like, oh, like, this is new. And he goes to me, oh yeah, that's where like the EDL live. And I was like, what do you mean, like the English Defence League? And he was like, yeah. He was like, they all live there. The leader lives there as well. And I was like, all right, that's interesting. And instantly I had this kind of apprehension inside of myself, where I was like, so what does this mean? We need to keep away from that area? Are we not allowed to go to that area? So when you see some of these interviews with some of these protesters, they all say the same thing. I saw one clip the other day, and the woman's saying that it's not racist, and she put it on her Facebook that it's not racist, and she's making it very clear that they're not racist. And after the clip, I don't know, I kind of wanted to call bullshit, because she was saying like it's all about being proud of our country and showing the pride, and this is our country, da 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 da, makes sense. And the reason I was calling bullshit was because I was like, I've been here pretty much all my life. Like, like I said, I came here when I was like, what was it, 3, 4? And the only time, like the only recollection I have of the St. George's flag is the Euros, which happens, what is it, every 2 years, 4 years, and all the World Cup. Those are the only times I've ever seen the St. George's flag, right? And maybe at, like royal weddings and some type of royal event or whatever. I don't even think I've seen that flag in the Olympics because generally I think they hold the United Kingdom flag. So I was like, this whole thing of, yeah, we're proud, we're British, da 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 da. I was like, I don't know, man, I've never really seen that before. Because it's a difference. So if you go across the pond to America, they have the flag everywhere, mugs, t shirts, hats, bags, you name it. Like, they are very kind of, like, God bless America, we are the greatest country in the world, right? Now, I'm going to quote Alan Carr on this. So if you've seen the interview on Chatty Man, which used to come on I think years ago, but he is talking to Jamie Foxx and he's talking to forget his name, Channing Tatum, and they're talking about their movie White House Down and patriotism and stuff. And to quote him, he literally said, "If a load of terrorists went down to Downing Street, the British people would be like, yeah, it is what it is. Good luck, and we'll carry on. Like build a Starbucks there." And obviously everyone laughed. No one turned around and said, "Oh, that's not the case." And I don't think people realize it's not the fact that, oh, we aren't saying you can't fly your flag in your country. That's ridiculous. It's your country, it's England, you can fly whatever flag you like. Every country has the right to fly their flag. But I just don't think people realize the connotations of this flag. The reason why ethnic minorities are afraid is because every single time we have seen that flag personally, it's always in the hands of the BNP. It's in the hands of Britain First. It's in the hands of all of those go back to your country, this is our country, we don't want you here type of people. Every time they do a protest, they never have the United Kingdom flag. They've always got, the St. George's flag, bar maybe one or two, but the majority, it will always be the St. George's flag. Now, let's look at like the Welsh flag or the Scottish flag or the Irish flag. You could literally paint the whole town in Irish colours or Scottish colours or Welsh colours. You could draw that dragon on my house and I wouldn't even care because those flags, they're just not scary. They're not like, they don't invoke any type of emotional feeling because, like I said, again, the parties that associate with the St. George's flag are always those that want, they're anti-immigrant and xenophobic and they want everyone to go home. And that is the reason why, people are saying that when they're walking down the road in their own neighborhood and they see these flags being put up, it makes them scared because they think, should I be here? Am I allowed to be here? And it automatically goes back to the whole, racism thing of this is our country, leave. And I think people forget the history. I mean, are we forgetting the National Front? I mean, I know I wasn't alive in that time, and my generation, pretty much most people were not alive at that time. That goes as far as, my dad, and that's that generation. But are we forgetting that the National Front, wanted Britain to be tied to a specific British race? And you don't even have to ask yourself, what is that specific British race? Of course, they wanted white people because, you had all the people from the Caribbean and, later on you had people from South Asia all coming over to work and basically do the jobs that nobody else wanted to do. And again, the flag was there. And that's why even the older generation, they've said it. They've said that that's the flag that they used to see and they used to get scared. So now when they see it, it will automatically, it goes back to those days, where they experienced that racism, where they were told to go back to their country. And the same thing is happening. And that's what I want people to understand. It isn't a case of, we're not trying, no one, like, let's be clear. No one is trying to take over Britain. Like, honestly, I don't think anyone's got the time. You know, there's a cost of living, and we're all just trying to live. We're all just trying to get on with what we need to do, go to work, come home, take care of ourselves and our family, right? I don't think anyone's got the time to be taking over a whole country. But this whole narrative of, like, oh, we're being invaded and we're being taken over. I'll be honest with you, most brown people, I don't think we couldn't care less. Like, we're just here to live, man. We're just here to work and do the same things you guys do. I mean, fair enough, we might not go down to the pub and drink or whatever, but at the same time, we're still going out, we're still eating. We're not here to take over anything. I'll be honest with you, the majority of brown people don't have the time. But I find it really interesting that, the council taking down the flags was the reason, for this kind of movement, this whole raise the colours thing. But again, the narrative has shifted, to this whole kind of anti-immigrant, anything that's not white, basically, sentiment of, we can't fly our flags because basically, we make the immigrants uncomfortable and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I'm going to be honest with you, yeah, ethnic minorities are uncomfortable with the flag. And maybe we need to go through therapy for that. I don't know. Maybe we need to address those issues. But the whole reason why is because that, like I said, the flag has always been associated with, nationalist parties. It's always been associated with those people that have been very anti-immigrant, anti anything other than white. I don't think it even matters if you're brown, black, or purple. I think it has just always been very like, Britain is for white people and white people only. We don't want anyone else here. And that's just how it is. So, and I think that's why it's very important for people to kind of understand that no one is saying that you can't fly your flag. This is your country. You can do what you guys want. Put your flags up, have your pride. But try to actually understand why, your next door neighbor is, I don't know, feeling a bit apprehensive, or the Pakistani family living down the road don't particularly feel at ease. Is because for them, that's all they've known the flag. They've only ever associated the flag with the BNP, with the Nationalist Party, with Reform and Britain's First. Honestly, go on like the Sun or the Daily Express or any of their YouTube channels. Scroll down the comments and look for the most, uneducated racial comment ever, and it will always be someone with the St. George's flag. It will be a lion with a St. George's flag, or it will be like a Knights Templar with a St. George's flag, and you'll see things like rally the troops and raise up and all this kind of stuff. And that's the thing, it's like every time you see that, you see the flag, and then you question, oh, how can we not then associate the flag with racism? How can we not feel uncomfortable when we see all of these flags everywhere, and then we suddenly think, what's happening here? Is the narrative shifting? And this isn't meant to be a video on, like saying, oh, don't put your flags up or anything. No, it's just a bit of discourse, just to kind of put it out there so that people actually understand, why ethnic minorities are feeling the way they are feeling, And when I say ethnic minorities, of course, generally I'm giving the brown perspective, as is the main focus of this channel. But I know, some of my other friends, so a lot of my black friends and Indian friends, they are all kind of feeling the same way. Even, my Arab friends, they've said the same thing, because that's the thing. Growing up, we have always associated that flag, with racists. And that is just how it is. We've always associated that flag with racists. So now, all of a sudden, putting them up and then going on, Sky News and saying, oh no, it's got nothing to do with racism. It's all to do with pride. I don't know, man. It's just like, maybe it is, but you're going to have a very hard time convincing a lot of people that it isn't about racism, and it isn't about, this sentiment of Britain is meant for white people, etc. Because as far as I can remember, I mean, the National Front or wherever they were, they came out in 1967. So if you think about it, how many years have gone by? If you want it to not be about racism, then you're going to have to prove it, and you're gonna have to take back your flag.